Thank you very much. So I just wanted to ask a question that sort of builds on what a comment you just made, which is that there's a moment in the film Exodus where one of the residents makes the observation that, I'm paraphrasing, that it looks to outsiders like there are only a handful of houses here, and therefore it's not a neighborhood. And then he goes on to make the point that people live here and it is a neighborhood, and it's a flourishing neighborhood when you come up close and see it. And I'm wondering, so this is a question for you, Jun. As you thought about making both of these films, how did you think about telling a story that would complicate people's understandings of neighborhoods that look like they're not real neighborhoods? That is, to intervene in a situation where, especially for WashU students, but many people perceive those neighborhoods as failing or ailing or in decline. And what choices did you make as a filmmaker as you tried to tell that story?
Right. So I was a WashU student as well, and so a lot of the things that I've been hearing, or as Bob mentioned in his tour as well, don't go north of Del Mar. Those are some of the things that students hear, and we kind of internalize that, and I guess act upon it by avoiding crossing the divide, or avoid going exploring the city of St. Louis as students should be doing. They're kind of locked up in this WashU bubble that a lot of us talk about, and so part of the I guess the shock that I had was how misrepresented North St. Louis was, not in just the context of the NGA, but the St. Louis place, the neighborhood, but also at a larger scale of North St. Louis as a region. It's been mischaracterized, misrepresented, and so part of the goal that I had as a filmmaker was to elevate the neglected voices of the residents in terms of, like I said earlier, with the media representation, they always don't always focus on the voices of the residents as much as they should be, is what I believe. So that was part of my goal, was to, first of all, raise awareness that this was happening in our city. I think a lot of people maybe have heard about NGA here and there, but the things that are actually going on, the impact that it has on some of the people's lives are not being highlighted. So I wanted to put it up to for people to see. So this is great.
I lose patience whenever anybody says something will be a certain way. Right? I always say, well, that's one possible outcome, right? And we've seen a lot of precedents when we've said before, oh, it will do this, and it didn't do that. So there's a lot of precedents that make you have a little bit of doubt, right? There's just so many things, and the folks here, we all talk about this all the time. It's a different issue. Rather than my forecasting, which is, I don't really think you have a reason to care about my forecasting, but what I'm more interested in is the way we manipulate language and information depending on the outcome we want. And there's a lot of stories we all know that are going up in that area that we can't even get into the papers. They just won't cover them because it's going to sound a little critical, but I listen to language. I talk to my students about this a lot too. It's like when it gets back to yours, talk a little bit, Heidi. Right? If you want to get rid of a neighborhood, you say, well, it's only 40 homes, it's only 2 churches, it's only a bunch of business, it's only. If you were doing something that was benefiting 40 homes, 2 churches, you'd be bragging about it. Right? But if your intention is to get rid of people, you manipulate the language. And that's been very, very painful to watch that manipulation go on and wonder how in the world do you get to that? Because some people only hear that. Yeah, you see that the dominoes one after another, right? It starts with the redlining. It goes to the Team 4 plan. It goes to the developers. It goes to the schools closing. I mean, And I think, for I think a lot of us, like, yeah, it's very painful. And what's most painful is the ignorance of that. Other people's ignorance of it. That's why, again, it pains me so much being at Wash U, knowing that there's people that, the minute new people come to St. Louis, they're told, don't go north of Delmar, don't go east of Skinker. And that's exactly where we all have some reason to be, perhaps. I think the other thing that's hard is getting people to really understand their role in it. Yeah, because a lot of people think if I haven't aggressively done something, I'm off the hook. But we're all living in this structure, we're contributing to it. When I look at this, I've got an incredible structural inequity. I always say, there's two ways we can respond to that. One is to challenge that structure. Thinking about, where am I going to put my kids in school? Where am I going to buy property? Where am I going to move my money? Or the other is to look at it and go, well, I'm going to make that inequity, I'm going to make that structure work for me. I'm not going to put my kids in that school. I'm not going to live in that neighborhood. Right? I like to think that we can actually do some long-term, short-term both. Right? That you don't have to pursue your own welfare at the expense of other people. But that's what we've done historically. And it's now so baked in to our geography. But how do you change our geography? Right? It's a challenge. It's a challenge. My complaint is less about Ferguson in some ways than the way it's manipulated and portrayed, or the way it's being focused on. Because I always tell people, there's a lot of places in St. Louis that are more Ferguson than Ferguson. And, for a lot of us, we were kind of, in some ways, almost surprised that that's where it happened. I can figure that out. I can work my way through that. But, as I think I said in the film, like I'm friends in Delwood to say, the hell of it is, we have less now to work with because everybody wants to have Ferguson on their resume. So Ferguson will be ironically the latest reason to do nothing anywhere else. I said it.
I just actually had a question for you, Jovan. City Faces is featured a bit in the second film. And I wonder if you could just say a few words about your work there, and in particular with regards to this theme that runs through both films of opening our eyes. So you're working with Washington University students, perhaps others, I don't know, but bringing them down to work with these children in Clinton Peabody. Could you speak a little bit to that experience and maybe some of the challenges that you have faced in helping people that aren't from those communities open their eyes and by extension their hearts?
Well, it's been not just me. It's been kind of passed down for me and people are all watching students in. So it's more than just me doing anything. I'm a small part of it. It's grew so much since just me. Now it's like a couple. Yeah. So they do homework, tutoring, boys club, girls club. We got some other stuff coming up too, but right now, that's the main focus. I see what the kids need. I just kind of sit around and watch and see what they're struggling in, and that's how I come up with the plans and ideas for them, because it's their program, they do them. So I try to figure out what they need and find the right people to help them, and a lot of them are right here in Oregon. So I want to say thank you to the Washington students that are here to help out with City Faces, and thank you all for showing up.
you're asking what WashU, you're new to St. Louis, what could WashU students do while they're here? Yeah. First of all, don't listen to what you hear. Yeah. You know, when sometimes when they want to get the kids off campus, where do they go? They go to the Central West End and Crown Candy. Is it like, you know, if you go to Crown Candy, you're down with the city, right? Oh my God. I can't help it. I think just explore to some extent, but there are people that have their feet on the ground. You see, you can do it respectfully, and then just listen. It's just what he was saying, right? Because you know, even when my students want to go to the places, I always say, well, I will take you there, but I'm going to take you in a very specific way. You know, first of all, act like a normal person, right? But go there and listen. And that's what, you know, this is really covered in the film here, but say even that board ups, I was ripping on those board ups, right? What the students did that was different was that they went up there before the sort of end of the year violence, and they just, you know, they went to the restaurants, they talked to people, and what came out of those conversations was very interesting. It was not only the part about some of the other people's funding being down, but what some of the store owners told the students was, you know, our business is down about 80% already. Because of the threat of violence, the landlords want us to board up. Like in some of the little strip malls there, right across from Ferguson Market. We don't know if we will survive a board up. You know, we're right on the edge. We don't think we can board up and just scrawl open on it. You know, the board up may put us out of business if nothing else does. So in conversation with the students, they came up with this idea of like, yeah, we'll board up, but the students would paint them like false storefronts, you know, to show that they're open, to show what's going on there, to show there's some love and care, right? And that's what the students did, and you know, put them up in the snow. And that little guy was always kind of out drumming. He came over and drummed for the kids while they were putting them up. And but then what happened is that when the round of violence broke out, every place around those two little strip malls was hit except them. Right? They hit the market, they hit the McDonald's, they hit the Alderman's headquarters, they hit everything. They didn't touch those two strip malls. And I always tell my students, you know, be cautious. Don't assume that the one thing you did was the only thing that, you know, could have been dumb luck, could have been a lot of things. But some of the store owners came to the students and said, you helped save our businesses. You didn't wait till after the damage was done and come in and put your little doves on it. Right? That in that case, our businesses are gone, but your boredoms are still there. And what the ICE students did was that your boredoms are gone, but our businesses are still there.